Let's go back to our driving metaphor. If stopping your car every minute or so is unpleasant, how about being stuck in traffic jam where for a few minutes you are not moving at all? Or definitely upsetting. And what if after that, cars start moving slowly, and after a mile or so you realize there was nothing really blocking the road, and the only reason for the slowdown was a little car accident on the side of the road. And so all the drivers slowed down just because they were curious to see what was going on. Isn't that even more upsetting? All that time wasted only because drivers' attention was focused on what was going on the side of the road instead of just keep driving? If we analyze the situation, we realize an interesting dynamic. The first car probably slowed down or stopped because the driver was curious to see the car that was hit. Then the car behind it was naturally forced to slow down or stop to avoid collision. And soon enough, there was a traffic jam. Now let's take it back home, into our classroom. Imagine you stand in your class teaching when suddenly you realize one of your students is chatting with a friend right next to him. What do? It would be safe to assume you stop, turn to that student, and one way or the other ask him or her to stop interrupting the lesson. Now let's take a moment and think, what actually happened here? You were trying to take care of an interruption to your lesson. Now let's assume for a moment you were successful about it, and the chatter stopped talking for a while. But what is the price you paid? Did it help the student who you rebuked to join the lesson? Maybe yes, and maybe no. Oftentimes, after a short few minutes, the student is disruptive again, and your reaction escalates. And suddenly you find yourself in a cycle which is not easy to end. But you know what? Even if he or she is not talking again, since the student was not paying attention before that, it would be harder for the student to catch up now. And so your chances to get him or her back on track are really not too high. Now let's think about you. You lost your attention, maybe your train of thought. It could be you were in the middle of a sentence or showing on the board how to solve a complicated problem, and now you lost momentum. Now you need to refocus and get back on track. And what about the rest of the class? Hopefully, they were listening up until the drama, so to speak, took off. When you stopped teaching and talked to that student, their attention was shifted to your interaction with the student, and so now the chances that they will come back to your lesson are also relatively low. The bottom line is you paid a very high price for a little or limited outcome. Moreover, when we calculate the accumulated effect of the common way teachers approach discipline problems, over time the results are hoarse throat, negative emotions, feeling frequently exhausted, frustration, drained energy, and so on. I think you're getting my point. It seems like responding to discipline challenges is not very cost effective. Great investment with poor outcome. At this point, you're probably asking yourself, okay, what's the alternative? Obviously, we can't let students just constantly talk and not listen without doing anything about it, or we will never be able to teach anything. Good question. And we will talk about that in the next videos. But for today, I would like to challenge you a bit and ask you to try your best to minimize the amount of times you stop teaching to deal with discipline. It will be very beneficial for you to try that before you continue to the next video. If you want an even greater challenge, and if you ask the student after the first video to count all the times you stop teaching in order to deal with discipline problems, ask another student to count again and see if you were able to reduce the times you were stopping to deal with discipline problems. So good luck with that experiment, and I will see you in the next video.